Welcome back to What She Said Sports. All right, good evening. Class is in session. I hope everybody had a great afternoon as we get ready to ride out and close out the evening. I put together some research, some information. Before the draft, I had a chart. I don't know if y'all remember what this looks like. I had this chart that I put together before the draft, highlighting where all the black quarterbacks were that are starters. Now, y'all know my theory, 17 of 32, as white starting quarterbacks become the minority. Um, you know, what happened in the draft was relative to trying to preserve whiteness at the quarterback position. Hence, 17 of 32. The halfway mark is 16. Cam was taken in the draft at 16. Shedeur would have been the tipping point, 17. And Milroe, 18. So I put together this draft, and if you take a peek at it, you can kind of see where we predicted Shedeur going to the Steelers, with Milroe going to the Saints, and with Cam going to Tennessee. Now, I have updated this chart. So what we're looking at is just so you guys can have some context. We had already been talking about this, and I updated based on where people are pretty much now and what's going on. So as we can see here, the gain was Cam Ward because Milroe did not go to the Saints and Shedeur did not go to the Steelers. Instead of these two players being starters for these respective teams, Milroe and Shedeur have been buried on the depth chart. So without further ado, let's take a look at one of the updated charts. I made two. Okay, so one of the things that I talked about is the NFL. I don't believe that outside of analysts, they believe that fans like ourselves have a holistic view or look at more than the team that they're celebrating. Like, for instance, I think they believe that Shedeur Sanders fans only watch Browns games and support Shedeur Sanders. They don't believe that we came from Colorado or Jackson State and we have many players that we support, like Jimmy Horn Jr., LaJohntay Wester, Shiloh, Cameron Silma-Craig, Travis Hunter, and BJ Green, Xavier Weaver, Derek McClendon. List goes on, right? The list goes on. Shiloh, just in case I didn't say his name. So we're watching all of these guys. And I was asked, when people started becoming familiar with my podcast, people would ask me, what's my favorite team? And I say I don't have one. I have favorite players. I'm standing right here in a Bengals sweatshirt right now, right? Y'all know I have Dallas. Y'all know I have Vegas merch. If you've been following the channel long enough, you know I have the Texans. You know I have, the Falcons, right? So, matter of fact, just looking at my Falcons jacket a minute ago. So, in college, I pretty much rep Colorado. But in the NFL, it's where the players go, where they were drafted to, who they play for. And even before that, the quarterbacks. I follow the quarterbacks. So knowing and kind of seeing what was going on and having more of a holistic view of what was happening around the league to black quarterbacks, that's how we got on this topic. And that's how I came up with 17 of 32. Because in 2024, I knew, as well as a lot of other people, even though it wasn't discussed in the draft, that this 25 class would be the year that 17 of 32 would take place, with the majority of the starting quarterbacks being black. So we just looked at the chart that we had pre-draft and post-free agency. Now this is the post-draft chart. And as you can see, the dots represent what? I mean, I think it should be obvious that that's where the quarterbacks are. Now there's also a red and a yellow. The red dot indicates it's the same size as the black one. These were supposed to be starters that are black starting quarterbacks, but they got robbed. Basically, that's what it is. And I actually have a post that shows that it seems like there were only 3 quarterback competitions held, with the Saints, Spencer Rattler, and Anthony Richardson in the Colts, and Shedeur Sanders. Now, y'all saw how Shedeur Sanders' competition went. He actually won it outright 2 or 3 times, but it didn't matter. They kept him at the back of the depth chart. That's why you see a red dot over here for Cleveland. That's a stop. So they stopped Shedeur from becoming a starter. Then over here with the Colts, you see a stop, because they just took Anthony Richardson's job from him and gave it to Daniel Jones. So that was a black quarterback that started, and they just took his job. I've been doing research on Anthony Richardson. We'll probably talk about that more tomorrow. Looking at Anthony Richardson and Spencer Rattler to see, how they ended up where they were, drafting their positions, what's going on their teams, and looking for the similarities with Shedeur. So that's the two dots that are red. That stops. They stopped those two. So instead of the numbers that they would have attributed to starting quarterbacks, they stopped it. They put a stop to it. So that's why it's red. And then we have what? We have yellow. There's one yellow dot. Why? Because I just said there's 3 competitions that took place. The other one was the Saints, and it's pending. Now, first on the depth chart is Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler also a 5th round pick. They love that 5th round pick for black quarterbacks. And he emerged as the best quarterback on their roster. So instead of them just calling it and going with Spencer, they want to drag it out and try to find a way for Tyler Shaw to get it. So this yellow dot could turn black with Spencer Rattler being a black starting quarterback, or it could turn red because they stopped it, right? They stopped the best from becoming the starter in New Orleans. So we'll see what happens with that. But I think that people are beginning to see, if you step back outside of Shedeur, if you look around the league, a holistic view, you will see that what is happening to Shedeur is also happening to a few other people. And why? 17 to 32. So let's talk about the list right here. 17 to 32 over to your right, focusing on the starters. There are 15 black starting quarterbacks right now, just like in the draft. 15. Cam Ward became 16 in the draft, but he's 15 now because Anthony Richardson just got jacked for his starting job. There's no other way to say it. It's just insane, right? The guy that Anthony Richardson had to compete with failed at another team, but he got the opportunity at $14 million, Daniel Jones, to come over from Minnesota. Instead of competing with J.J. McCarthy for his starting job, they put Daniel Jones, who failed in New York miserably, behind Anthony Richardson and basically just took Anthony Richardson's job. Because that's what they wanted to do. Because if Anthony Richardson would still be the starter, it would be 16. So we have 15 starters, and you see Chicago, Green Bay. Over here, we have, that's Lamar Jackson and Baltimore. Now, if you notice, you have, I think that's I keep looking at that at the top, the NFC East at the top. So you have New York, Philadelphia, Washington, and Dallas, right? And then it moves over and you have, who is that at the top? Hold on, I can't see who that is. Oh, it looked like the Patriots, but I don't think that's what it is. And then you don't have as many. There's one division that's just stacked, right? Stacked with starters. And then when you move over, it could be 3 out of 4, right? Where the Saints are. If Spencer Rattler is confirmed the starter. He's currently the starter on the depth chart, but this little competition that, again, only black quarterbacks had to go through, and they took one from each of the last few years. Anthony Richardson from 23, Shedeur from 25, and Rattler from 24. So 23, 24, and 25. They took one quarterback from each of those years and made them compete. Because why? For the last few years, 3 quarterbacks have been drafted in the first round. That has been the trend. That's why the numbers are at the tipping point with Shedeur going to the Browns at 17. So over here on the far end, if you notice, there's only one black quarterback in this division. It was Geno Smith, but they moved him to Vegas. So really, it's just Kyler Murray, right? So he's kind of over there, and none of these other teams have black quarterbacks. Then you come down here, and then you see Lamar, and then you go over where Josh Allen is, and it's really kind of just one, right? So if you notice, they're all concentrated in the NFC. I don't know why that is. And there's not as many down here. I mean, there could have been, but the way the numbers were manipulated, and this is what we mean by musical chairs. So people talk about where Shedeur could go. You're going to see in a minute, not a lot of places. So you have the Jets over here with Justin Fields. They already trying to boot him out his spot, saying he's not going to be able to resurrect the Jets. They just got a brand new black quarterback. And Justin Fields was treated miserably in Chicago. He went to Pittsburgh. And I think he got injured, and he saw Mike Tomlin was losing his voice and his power, so he bounced to the Jets. So they have an interesting scenario. You'll see it on the next chart. And then we move over here to the Texans and the Tennessee Titans. So we had last season two black quarterbacks, but now they booting Anthony Richardson out. So this is another division that could have gone 3 black quarterbacks to 1, meaning Trevor Lawrence, the only white quarterback in this division. But now that they done boot Anthony Richardson out of his job and put a stop there, it's back to 2. And then you go over here to the far right, and you have the Kansas City Chiefs with Pat Mahomes. And then you have Geno Smith, who moved from the north to the AFC, right? So that's kind of like to give you a sense of what's going on. Now, it's painfully obvious that they put the best quarterbacks in one division. And what's starting to become very obvious, aside from the collusion cases, aside from the collusion in the draft, is the NFL is not competing. There's no competing going on here. They are colluding for talent, and they're colluding on where the talent goes. You're not supposed to do that in business. You're supposed to just let the free market go. And this is a competitive league. No, they are carefully choosing where people go. So you'll see again when I get ready to flip to this next chart, who's who and where everybody is and why it matters. Okay, so this is the second chart. Now notice it has a lot of color. It does, doesn't it? This is the 17 to 32. This is the threat to the NFL when it comes to who the starters are. It will explain why the draft went the way it went. So if you notice, I got a few more colors, right? I still have black representing the starters, right? I still have the red representing who was supposed to be a starter. Either they stopped it by taking their job away, Anthony Richardson, or blocking Shedeur Sanders, right? So see, Shedeur Sanders is in company with Anthony Richardson and Spencer Rattler, hence the red and the yellow. But come over here to the left. It said paired, and it's a gray circle, and I put it next to the black one. Now, that's not anything about race. That represents a black quarterback, yes, but nothing about their ethnicity. It's just another way for you to see how many black quarterbacks are paired together on teams. Do you see this? So we have 12 pairs of black quarterbacks, which means 27 black quarterbacks are stacked together on the same team. Look at the same division. That's the NFC East, I believe, with New York, Philly, Washington, and Dallas. They went from just having starters that are black to guys on the depth chart that are also black, whether it's the 2, the 3, or the 4. They not up there by themselves. Do you think it's a coincidence that on all of this chart, that this division right here is the one division that everybody's stacked up together, that all of the best black quarterbacks are? No. This is how you know they're not competing. They're colluding. I mean, somebody could say, well, maybe they're competing and the teams just want to get the best person because, Washington got Jaden Daniels and then Philly got, so maybe the other team just wanted to get a really good guy too. So is it a coincidence that they all stacked together? So conversely, is it a coincidence that there are certain teams with no colors in the box? Minnesota, where Daniel Jones just left from. Also, what's his name? Sam Darnold departed ways and booted, I guess, Geno Smith out. Then look over here, the Rams, nobody. San Francisco, nobody. You see, these are not coincidences. Denver Broncos. We talked about the Denver Broncos. Not only are they mentioned in the lawsuit for racial discrimination, and Brian Flores' lawsuit, they are also the team that had a black quarterback in 1968 named Marlon Briscoe, who was successful with them. And they told him point blank, period, we don't want you to be our quarterback. What is it Stefanski said about Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur? Well, we're just more comfortable with Dylan. That is no different than what Briscoe was told by the Denver Broncos. So it shouldn't be a surprise that if you look at their quarterbacks, there are none that are black, not one. They're in a racial discrimination lawsuit that's active. So it shows you that the teams that don't have any, it's not a coincidence. Now, Pittsburgh had 2 last year, but they got theirs taken away. They had theirs taken away. Russ is up here now. So when we talking about New York and Jackson Dart, right? And they didn't want to get Shedeur. They ended up with Jackson Dart, but before that, they ended up with Russ, and he has a parent. Who is that? Jameis Winston, who was just where? In Cleveland. Russ interviewed with Cleveland. They didn't want him. I don't know why not, but they okay with Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett and Dylan Gabriel. So none of this is a coincidence. This is strategic. So when you talk about where it is Shedeur can go, it's not going to be any of these teams with the white boxes. Not a one, and definitely not Denver. Not a coincidence. It's the Rams and San Francisco. It's not a coincidence that Minnesota, because they took 2 white quarterbacks and spread them out somewhere else to block other people from going there. This is not about competition. This is what I said earlier. It feels like a power struggle. And now I see why. So let's go on to another color circle. So we have solo depth guys. They're black, right? So I have 6 guys that are on a team, but they don't have a black starter. They just over there by themselves. That's the Bengals, Desmond Ridder. And then we have, I think that's the Patriots. And then I have, who else is it? At the top, I think I have Tampa Bay because Teddy Bridgewater's up there. And Seahawks, that's Jalen Milroe. He should have been a starter, but they stopped that. And then the Lions. The Lions have a competition. They have the guy, Henry Herndon from Tennessee, competing with somebody else. He was the 2. Now he competing with the 3 to determine who's going to be the 2. See, all the black quarterbacks in the competition. I'm looking for a competition with 2 white quarterbacks. I want to see 2 white quarterbacks with these white boxes. I want to see J.J. McCarthy compete for his job because he hasn't proven anything, right? Only the black quarterbacks have to be competing. This is racist. They better find a competition with some white people in it. And it better be one of these teams up here. Well, it's all white quarterbacks. So they get to be comfortable and cushy. I don't see anybody in a competition with just the white box. And it's not a coincidence that there are no black people there. So then there's another color, right? So then I have another circle, again, just to denote black, but we just black. And I just got to find different colors to put in it where like it's gray, etc. So you could see the difference, right? So over here, I have 2 guys whose one, their mother is black. And she's black and German, but I think he grew up with more of his Samoan culture. So I didn't know if he wanted to be black or not. But I guess what, though? The NFL think he black because he over there with somebody else that's black. Because if they thought he was white, he'd be up here in these white boxes. He is not. So it's him and another guy, Martinez. So DJ from Florida, Aguilue, I don't know his last name. His mother is black and German. And clearly the NFL sees that he's black. And then over here with the Jets, Adrian Martinez, turns out he's black, white, and Hispanic. Again, they think he's black, hence he's with all these black people. So here's what's starting to happen. As we exhaust the pairings, we get into the triplets down here. We get into the triplets. So the Jets have a black quarterback. They have a black starter in Justin Fields. Tyrod Taylor is a QB2. And then Adrian Martinez is a QB3. That's next. So rather than fill in any of these white boxes, they want to start with they're going to go from the parents to the triplets. So now you can see what stands out like a sore thumb. The red boxes, the red circles, Shedeur Sanders over here with Cleveland, and who else? Anthony Richardson. His red circle is inside of a black dot because they took his job. That's why I put it like that. They jacked him for his job. And then over here, Shedeur is paired up with who? Deshaun Watson. Or maybe I should put 2 more circles because, hell, they are triplet now. You have Huntley, Deshaun Watson, and Shedeur. So technically, I can put Huntley on there. And if you notice, you got 2 sets of triplets right by each other. But none of them the starter in Cleveland. But in New York, they are because why? They have a black head coach. It's not hard to see what's happening here. It's not hard to see why Adam Schefter today reported about some competitions. Now, he didn't talk about the competition in Detroit. I was just doing research and found that one, right? So it said, while the Colts and the Browns have named starting QBs, the Saints are not yet ready to do so, even though there's a drastic difference between Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shaw. But see, Spencer Rattler is a 5th round QB. Why let a 5th round QB like Spencer and Shedeur compete for the starter, but when they win, you don't want to give it to them? So basically, you just created some fake competition to justify some foolishness. But it's not working, because all one person has to do is just look at the damn chart to see y'all are not competing. You're strategically placing talent. It's that the Saints are not ready to make a decision. The head coach, Kellen Moore, told reporters the competition and evaluation process will go through this week. Now, I don't know what they hoping to do other than probably get Kenny Pickett and gonna put Kenny Pickett in front of Spencer Rattler and say, well, you a 5th round QB, so we're not gonna be able to do it. He is elite. I've been reading draft profiles. He is elite. Just like they want to say Shedeur is not elite. To this very moment on NFL site, it says Shedeur is a 1st round projected QB. They talk about Shedeur, and people are screaming and hollering and losing their brains in Cleveland, talking about he's the most popular QB in the draft. I'm like, excuse me. He's the best quarterback in the class. See, when they start that talking about his popularity, like he's popular. He's not just popular. He's the best quarterback that came out in the draft. And you can see when you're looking at this chart why it is that they going through all of this damn trouble to just really hold people back. I have 2 dots. You let either one of them turn black, and guess what's going to happen? You let Spencer Rattler go, and he going to be 16. And you let Mother Nature take place in Cleveland, or just the day-to-day, and Shedeur going to be 17. And that means that they went through every damn thing they went through in the draft to hold him back failed. That's what that means. That means you did all of that in the draft for nothing. This is why they are holding Shedeur so far back. It also explains why Kellen Moore does not want to make a decision on Spencer Rattler being the guy, because it'll be 16. So that means it takes an injury for 17 to occur on anybody's team. Hell, Anthony Richardson lost his job, but Daniel Jones get hurt. Guess who's going to be the starter again? Anthony Richardson. So they're doing everything they can to strategically place quarterbacks. So for people that say Shedeur Sanders should go to another team, which one of them is going to be? The Falcons? They already got 2 black quarterbacks. They could turn into triplets, because that's the next thing to happen. We going from pairings to triplets. Anything to keep these numbers of black quarterbacks low. And for the guys that are black maybe, and no disrespect, the league knows exactly what they are. That's why they're on the team with other black people. They could easily be on one of these teams with these white boxes. All these quarterbacks are white. And I don't think anybody's competing. I haven't seen any competition taking place with any of the quarterbacks in white boxes. The competitions are taking place on teams to try to make sure they don't move forward with 17. Hell, they probably don't want 16, because somebody going to get hurt. And this is where they are this year. So when you look at who's coming out next year and they're trying to manipulate it with the top 4 being white, well, first of all, somebody going to lose their job. And I don't know if it's people in the white boxes or it's the people with all the colors. But somebody going to lose their job. And it could be the triplets down here. That's when they're going to start busting up the triplets. And make sure and understand those guys coming out of school, one is going to the Saints, right? So you already know they over there mulling everything, but can we win games? Well, should we make Spencer Rattler the starter because Nussmeier's son is coming out next year, and we got Spencer on a contract for 4 years, so maybe we shouldn't have him play this year. Maybe we'll lose this year so we can make sure. That's what they're doing. They're not trying to win games. Their fans need to understand this is what's happening. This is what's happening. Black quarterbacks are competing for their spots so they don't emerge to 17 to 32. Anthony Richardson and Shedeur Sanders and Spencer Rattler and Herndon, I think, up in Detroit. They're not even competing for the starting job. They got Herndon competing for the 2 or the 3. Do you really need a competition for the 2 or the 3? I mean, really. Jared Goff is your starter, right? Okay. Teddy Bridgewater had to come in and do well there. Why they didn't keep him on the roster? Because they don't want him to replace 2% battery life for Jared Goff. So I want you to visualize how crowded it is for black quarterbacks. I want you to understand why there are teams with absolutely no black quarterbacks. So when you talk about where Shedeur can go, I want you to eliminate the one with the white boxes. Therefore, it's not going to be the Rams. It's not going to be the 49ers. It's not going to be Minnesota. It's not going to be Pittsburgh. It's not going to be Denver. And it's not going to be Jacksonville Jaguars or the Miami Dolphins. Tua is not black. So, we're just not going to do that. And the Buffalo Bills. So you take all of them off the table. He got to go to one of these right here with all these colors in the box. He got to go be a triplet. Hell, he already a triplet. So maybe he can go from one triplet to another one. Maybe he can make a triplet up in Arizona because it's 2 up there. So he'll be 3. Or maybe he can go over here with Geno Smith to the Raiders. But they got Cam Miller and they don't like they backup. I think they trying to move their second string to 4th or out the door. But they have an opening for a 4th string. So understand, when they trade Shedeur, they're going to try to keep him pigeonholed on 4th string. So he can only go to the teams that have a 4th string opening. I do believe that is Vegas and Miami, I think. But then, I don't think that's going to happen in Miami. But maybe Vegas because, Geno Smith over there, so he could just go pair up with him. That's how they're making these decisions. These people are not competing. And you would think, just stop drafting black quarterbacks. Because if this is what you want to do, kill their careers, I mean, they could just go somewhere and start their own team. That's what they don't want. They don't want them to start their own league. So they keep drafting them and they're trying to figure out what to do with them. But Cleveland is catching on, right? So Cleveland is upset, but they need to do more than be upset. You can't just yell and scream and cuss and say you upset. You're going to need to hold this team accountable. People have reached out to me on IG and asked me if they're not for Cleveland, can they complain about the Browns? Yes. They have phone numbers. They have, you like to write. They got addresses. You go to their website. It starts there. They got a phone number. They're going to probably make you leave a message. It's a lot of things that can be done. But the most important thing is to not show up. That's one. Just leave the stadium empty. If the Carolina Panthers fans can do it, then the Browns fans can do it. I mean, at this point, this is your team. These people are really like trying to move out of town because they don't want to enrich the city of Cleveland, but they want to take the name Cleveland Browns with them. Something got to give here. Something has to give. So, yes, you don't have to be in Cleveland to complain about the Browns. But definitely start on their website. So they upset. That's good. But it's not good enough if you don't do anything. Staying home, talking to your neighbors, the guys you go to the games with, the families y'all all go to the games together. Don't go. Just go to each other's houses and just watch it on one device. You're going to have to hit them in the pockets. And honestly, the biggest impact is to leave that damn stadium empty. The one they don't want to play in anyway. So, that's what it is. I've been working on this today. So the numbers came out today. I told Daniel Oyefuse, because I done followed everybody else. You the only reporter I'm following in Cleveland. So he put this out, or somebody tagged him in it, and somehow I got it. And Shedeur is still injured, right? So rumors are starting to swell. People immediately thought that Pickett was going to be traded. No, I don't see them trading Pickett and letting Shedeur get the QB3 because Dylan ain't really there, right? And normally they put Shedeur at the top. Normally he's where his I think sometimes, I think it's by jersey number, but somehow Huntley then came in here. So you see, they put Huntley back on here. So it is very possible that Shedeur is injured and he's the one that could be getting cut. He could be. He could be the one to get waived and another team pick him up. Again, they're going to have a fourth person on the roster or maybe a QB2. And it don't matter because it's already a QB1 that's black. It's that kind of situation. That's how they make decisions. These people are not out here competing for talent. They are strategically placing people so black people don't become 17 to 32. So when you hear me say 17 to 32, then now you can visualize what I'm saying. So Flacco was 6 to 13. Shedeur out with the oblique injury. I don't think he's going to play. And personally, I don't think Shedeur's had anything to prove. I really don't. Just because they want to say he's not good and ignore him like he's not good doesn't make it true. So let me know in the comments if you feel like Shedeur needs to play because he has something to prove. I don't think he does. What he did was pro level. They have seen enough from him. They don't respect him. So they need to find somebody on this damn chart and send him over there. And if it ends up being the fourth string, he gonna get up to the top two, right? That's why he's so far back. That's why Dylan is there, to make sure that Stefanski can keep saying, well, we can't put him in front of Dylan. That's Dylan's purpose, a blocker. And whether he knows it or not, that's what it is. So, find somewhere here. I mean, that's it. Just find somewhere to go. And my thing was, you don't want Shedeur to be the guy, then trade him. It's so simple. They make it seem like we don't want him to be the guy and we can't let him go at the same time. You're not going to hold him hostage. I'm like, because what's going to happen is non-Cleveland fans going to descend upon Cleveland. And whether it's in the flesh or virtually, it don't matter because they already reaching out asking me how to do it. People want to boycott. So if people figure out how to get something going, it's going to happen. That's why trading Shedeur is the best bet if Cleveland want people to stop talking about them. And I'm talking about the Browns. Because Cleveland is not convincing anybody that Dylan is better than Shedeur. And Cleveland is not convincing anybody that Pickett need to be on that roster. Pickett and Gabriel both should be gone. The three that should remain is who? Huntley, Shedeur, and Flacco. That's it. That's it. But they got the two black quarterbacks at the bottom because they don't want neither one of them to get out there and ball out for them. And if all they cut is Huntley, then they've been playing in their fans' faces because duh. But chances are they're going to keep them all. I think they're going to keep them all. And I think they'll put Huntley out there before they put Shedeur out there. Hell, Huntley probably on the roster just to block Shedeur because they know Dylan ain't good. And they know Pickett is injury prone. They probably going to roll with all five of these quarterbacks like they did in 2023. So don't listen to nobody that say they can't keep four quarterbacks because they've done it twice. They've done it twice. And they'll do it again. And to be honest with you, after this year, they're probably going to stop all these ridiculous competitions because people calling them out on it. And it's just for black quarterbacks seemingly, which is discriminatory. They probably all just going to start rotating quarterbacks. Because, see, at some point, you just going to have a bunch of triplets, right? Your parents are already stacked in your best conference. Let me tell you what this does. It means that only one of these elite quarterbacks can come out of this division. It doesn't clear the way like it used to, but it kind of clears the way for Josh Allen. They think Burrow is competition for Baltimore. So, but they want Josh Allen to go head to head with Lamar Jackson. And we saw how that worked out. Wasn't the game fixed? Yeah, it was fixed. Now that you see how this works, that game was fixed. So at one point, what's his name? Pat Mahomes over here had a clear shot. Not no more. He got another black player on the team with him. And he got the Chargers to contend with. And who is that? Geno Smith down there. So they giving him some competition. But you could see outside of the triplets, it's really not a lot, especially in terms of starters for Josh Allen. So I think they betting everything on him coming out of this area here. So you see how it works. This is how this works. The white box is going to stay white. As the parents begin to take over, then they're just going to move into triplets. That's why you got to start your own league, unless this is what you want to be a part of. Unless this is just what you want to be a part of. At least come into the league knowing what it is. Don't get blindsided. This is what it is. You're going to get slotted over here. And if you mix and you think, if they know you mix with black, you're going to be with the black people. That's you're not going to get in the white box. So don't try it because they already know. Matter of fact, I think they make it their mission to find out because they're not going to let you be mixed and then be 17 or 18 and then suddenly you black. They ain't going to do that. They're not going to do that. That's why they over here with everybody else. So the path is clear for people who have, like JJ McCarthy. They made sure he didn't have no competition. That's why when people say Shedeur going to Minnesota, even AI said that. I said, oh, JJ McCarthy must going to be gone because they cleared his path. They didn't even want Daniel Jones competing with him. I don't know why they couldn't compete. I don't know why he couldn't compete with Sam Darnold. If black people can compete for the 2 and the 3, then why you can't do it? If you're going to come into this league, come in here knowing what it is. Just come in here knowing what it is. At least just do that for yourself. But don't come in here and be surprised. Yeah, they're going to make you compete because the number's not going to go down. They're going to keep going up. It ain't not going to go down because when black players stop getting drafted by the NFL, they're going to start their own league. So they're going to keep drafting y'all, but they're going to keep devaluing you and they're going to keep making you compete. And every year it's going to be 3 black quarterbacks and Anthony Richardson, Shedeur Sanders, and what's his name? Spencer Rattler's situation. And the worst teams are the worst offenders. So at least just know what it is. At least know your history. So when they start telling you things, oh, we want you to be like Cleveland, talking about getting Lenore Sellers. Okay. I suggest his father do some homework because he need to be in college for 2 years. He need to be in college for 2 more years to try to let this mess sort itself out because it's a hot mess. It's a hot mess. They will lie. They will devalue you. They will make you compete. They'll let you win the competition and still put you in the back. That's the crazy part. I'm like, so Shedeur Sanders done won this competition twice and he's still at the end of the depth chart. And if they can do it to him, oh, they'll do it to anybody. Hey, Gemini, how you doing? How you doing? How you doing? Hey, Marlon, how you doing? Political Lil, how's everybody doing? How's the squad? Nice to see everybody. Hey, Chocolate, Lady PC, welcome. It said, who was scouting Shedeur for the year on the Browns? Who was scouting Shedeur for the year on the Browns since the Browns? Not sure what you mean by that. Can you clarify what you mean? Hey, Valerie, how you doing? How you doing? Clara said exactly, and they are wrong. Yes, Clara, they are wrong. And if you want to write a letter, get the address off their website. I know you got a good one waiting on them. Good form. I'm like, you can write them a letter. Simply Sarah. Hey, Sarah, how you doing? How you doing? It says, please tweet this to the NFL. The Browns are trying to keep Shedeur Sanders as it's not just him. That's why I put this out here. It's not just him. Yeah, you can send it to them, but they already know. I'm sure they got a chart of their own. It said these plantation mentality owners ain't nothing nice. Time for a civil rights class action lawsuit. Yeah, it is. I totally agree. It said nobody talking about Isaiah Bond getting first team reps and been there 2 days ago. Shedeur been there 2 months and can't get any first team reps. And he not going to get any first team reps. Again, there are 3 people that are black. There's really 4, but they're talking about 3 people that are black. Why? Because they're all QB1 positions. Anthony Richardson came out of the 2023 class as a number 1 pick, 4th overall. They just jacked him for his job. I mean, just stole it. And they sent Daniel Jones, who already failed. Daniel Jones had years to fail. This young man only been in the league since 2023. And he got to go. And somebody could just jack him for his job. It's because of 17 to 32. They're at 15. Anthony Richardson would be 16. That leaves Shedeur and Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler wears the 2. I know that burns them up in New Orleans. He is the best quarterback that they have. Even the fans were excited. They probably going to try to find a way to make sure Spencer Rattler's the guy, even if they got to go get Kenny Pickett or go get Shedeur and put him in a number 4 spot. I don't know why that would help them, But that's what people are thinking. They keep Shedeur out the way because he's good. And Spencer Rattler's also good. And then you have Shedeur. So he's the third one. So if you notice, one from each class, 3 competitions, all the quarterbacks black. All of those white quarterbacks in those white boxes with no color are not competing. Not for the 1, the 2, or the 3. J.J. McCarthy was given the keys, and he had 0 seconds of NFL film in his second year. Herndon only had 68 yards in his second year, and he not competing for the starting job. He competing for the 2 and the 3. That's an insult, especially if he was the 2 last year, which I think he was. That means they just want to move him out the way because they know if Jared Goff get hurt, he's going to what? Ascend to the starter. So they just looking for a way to make sure he don't be number 17 or 18. That's what this is about. And it's blatant. And it's discriminatory. And it's such a disparity. And it's so Jim Crow. This is ridiculous. If you don't want black quarterbacks to become the majority in your league, then stop inviting them to the combine. So they could go start their own league or go somewhere else. But see, they don't want to do that. What they want to do is have their cake and eat it too. I don't want you to go nowhere else. Why you just can't mind your business if I'm not in your league? If you don't want them in your league, you don't get to say, I don't want you to go somewhere else. That's ridiculous. But that's what it is. That's the situation. That's exactly what's happening. You need to visualize it. That's why you don't hear people calling for Shedeur. Who? First of all, Shedeur is a QB1. And if you try to trade him as a 4-stringer right now, hell gonna break loose. See, the Browns stuck. That's why they were upset when they got Shedeur. How you gonna move him? You gonna move him from 4-string to 4-string the team, and you gonna take all of this attention and all of this hostility that the Browns are getting to another team? Don't nobody want that. You keep him. That's why you got him, because you pre-drafted with him extensively. Even after the NFL said, I don't want quarterbacks like Shedeur. So you shouldn't have drafted him. And they're going to put that on who? Andrew Berry. When y'all start writing and emailing and texting and tweeting and calling the Browns, yeah, then something won't happen. They on social media. Find them on any platform you own and send them a DM. This is what they're doing. Shedeur is in the back because he would be 16 if he was the rightful QB1 that he is. This ain't about his daddy. That's why this ain't happening to Shiloh. It's not. Anthony Richardson, I think he might have been set up from the jump. Just the little research I've done, the whole situation is crazy. They definitely didn't develop him. It said he would be a good quarterback in 2 years, and somehow he's the 4th pick overall. Now, I'm going to have to look a little further into that to see what the hell is going on. But his agent came out and said today that the trust with the organization is broken, so he doesn't know what the future for Anthony Richardson is. What's happening to Anthony Richardson is what people think is going to happen with Shedeur. No, Shedeur going to be right there. Unless they cut him. Let's see who they cut. Believe me, they've been looking at the boxes. They know where the triplets are. They know where the parents are. They're not sending him to Tampa because Teddy Bridgewater right there behind Baker Mayfield. They're not going to do it to a white quarterback, so they're going to send him somewhere like maybe Atlanta, where Michael Penix Jr. is, and he also is paired up. The 4th person on the depth chart, Emory, is also black, who used to play with Anthony Richardson. I kind of think them being paired up is God turning a mess into a message, because you're not by yourself. Because Anthony Richardson was by himself. Well, I don't think he is now. And something happened up there. He took himself out of a game. When they were doing the anthem, he was standing like this. And the coach had his like this. So something's going on up there. So his agent put out a message. It's a big mess because they jacked him for his job. With Daniel Jones, who has failed, I don't know how long. Daniel Jones' record in the NFL is horrible. Stefanski's record is horrible. But you see how they keep getting passes? That's why his agent said the trust is broken. I don't know how long Anthony gonna be there, but I mean, if he was drafted in 2023, I don't know what he gonna do other than buy himself out of his contract. I mean, he could retire. He could retire, but he got to give the money back. Some of it, not all of it. He probably would have to give some of the money back, but he could retire. I mean, because as retaliatory as I have seen witnessed, I don't see where he would go next. So if he leave that team, he can making a decision to end his career. And when people say Shedeur need to ask for a trade, I want to remind you Deshaun Watson asked for a trade. And I want to remind you Deshaun Watson wasn't the only one. Those women didn't go to the NFL. They got found. That's why Deshaun Watson got all his money back. The NFL is hostile towards black starting quarterbacks. They even starting to say Pat Mahomes is on the decline. They even started, they got him over there with somebody else. He not like Josh Allen. You see Josh Allen's path is clear. J.J. McCarthy's, although he's proven nothing, clear. Brock Purdy, clear. So when Jerry Jones went and got, what's his name? Joe Milton from behind Drake May, he knew exactly what he was doing. He was a part of it. And they were moving everybody around in free agency. All they were doing was blocking where Shedeur could go. I mean, but he was locked out of the first round, right? So I wonder how many other coaches got threatened with the loss of their jobs, like Mike Tomlin did, for thinking of drafting Shedeur. I mean, if you locked him out of the first round, why you just didn't lock him out of the second? Why you had to breathe down Mike Tomlin's neck in the first round with all of these stories that they had to listen to about Shedeur if you just locked him out of the first round? I mean, that gave everybody, an out. Plausible deniability. I mean, we couldn't get him. They say nobody had a first round grade, but Mike Tomlin was going to draft him number 1 at 21. So that's a lie then, right? Then that's a lie. Because you wouldn't have had to say nothing to Mike Tomlin if nobody had a grade on him. They're lying. They have chosen to lie on Shedeur. They have decided to go through the extremes to hold him back. And him being at 4 is intentional because they know he's good. They saw it. And all they have to say, we feel more comfortable with Dylan than trade Shedeur Sanders. It's simple. It's really simple. So, that's where we are, guys. That's where we are. That's where we are. This is what they want to do. This is the theory of 17 to 32 that I just illustrated. That's why you see the competitions that you hear about. And notice that they're all with black quarterbacks. That's it. Cameron said, gifted 5, what she said, memberships. Oh, awesome. That means they'll go to people randomly, I do believe. That's awesome. Thank you for that, Cameron. So that means 5 people will randomly be selected to have a membership for a month. Awesome. I'm going to put that on the screen. Okay. It says Shedeur will be QB4 and keep getting better this season. Shedeur don't need to be better. He's already a pro. I think he starts 3 games this year. Okay, well, we're going to see. Social engineering. Yep, that's what it is. That's what it is. That's what it is. It said they're going to figure something out, something for those 2 rookies. It's going to be a lot of film and learning of the playbook. Yeah, okay. You're very optimistic and I really like it. I think that's a good way to be. It said they got scared that the QB position was getting too much elite with black QBs, especially watching Mahomes and Hurts take over the Super Bowl twice. There you go. Because see, that's why it matters where you go. That's that social engineering. And that is why you know what happened with the Super Bowl. Who's been there twice? Pat Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. That is why after the Philadelphia Eagles won a Super Bowl, they picked that team apart like that. I've never seen Kansas City picked apart that way. Yeah, you move a couple of pieces here and there, but that was like priority number one, and they just picked the team apart to make it harder for them to get back. But as you can see, Josh Allen path outside of the triplets, it's kind of clear. It's clear. But to me, I felt like had Shedeur gone to Pittsburgh, he could have been competition, right? He could have been competition for Baltimore. I don't know if Joe Burrow was going to get out. In fact, I watched the game last night with Washington and the Bengals don't even have defense. So I think Flacco going to have a clear shot at winning the game. There should be no reason why the Browns don't win that game. Because if that was their starting defense, yeah, they pretty bad. They pretty bad. So, and that's what's going to keep happening to these teams, right? As they try to move forward with mediocrity. And I want you to notice, right? It's Cleveland, the Saints, Indianapolis, and Detroit. Detroit has the 2% battery lifer. And they're making their guy Herndon compete, who was already number 2. Because when Goff go down, they don't want it to be Herndon. In New Orleans, they don't want it to be Spencer Rattler, period. That's why they try to go get Tyler Shaw. That's why they were never going to get Shedeur. Because, yes, Nussmeier's son is coming out of school. And they talk about nepotism. But they actually willing to lose or have a mediocre season at the expense of the players just so they could get somebody's kid. And nobody talks about whether or not his game going to translate to the pros because it don't matter. It's just what they want to do. And then Indianapolis. Indianapolis had a GM. I think that was a GM that said Lamar Jackson was too short to be a quarterback. So after they botched Lamar Jackson's draft and talking about he too short and he need to be a wide receiver and this, that, and the other, talking about his mental, the capacity isn't there. The next year, they draft Kyler Murray first and he's short. That's what they do. So because they snubbed Shedeur Sanders, they're going to go get a black quarterback next year to try to look like they're not racist. But all of this behavior right here, all of this competition and taking Anthony Richardson's job and giving it to Daniel Jones. Why Daniel Jones? Daniel Jones was in Minnesota. Why did he compete with McCarthy? They were there was a 2, 3, and a 4 in Indianapolis. Why didn't they get the opportunity? Why does it have to be Daniel Jones? You see what I'm saying? You went and got somebody who failed off of another team when he could have been competing with the guy that was in front of him. But he gonna come take a black QB's job. And Shedeur done won twice. But they won't let him be. They don't want him to be the franchise QB because everybody want to wait on a white QB that's supposed to be at the top of the draft chart. Well, what they going to do if once again the top 3 are black? Just know what you're signing up for. Caden coming out of school, just know what you're signing up for. It ain't going to go like you want it to go. It said putting him down to the 5th round makes it seem like he's not in direct competition for a starting job. Right, Cameron? And that's what they think, right? It's that the NFL left their endorsement of Shedeur on their website as a sick joke. Yep, and it does say he's still a first round projected. Saints should have picked Shedeur. It said, if I was Shedeur, I would go to the gym and tell him, let me go to the GM and tell me, let me go because I'm tired. Where he going to go? Where is he going to go? He going to have to be 4th somewhere else because remember, everybody else already got a job. The competitions are over. And who he going to compete with? They might send him to Atlanta. The Falcons wish Coach Prime a happy birthday. I thought that was interesting. Reggio. How you doing, Reggio? It said, nothing needs too many elite black QBs. That's all it is. White quarterbacks are becoming the minority. Because when you look at the empty boxes and you know that there's 4 or 3, and if you just go, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 6 or 7. 4 times 6. What's that? 24? I already got 26 people paired up on teams. Then I got 6 out there by themselves. 26 and 6 is 32. So that's what I mean. by 17-32. When it comes to the starters, they are already working on the backups. They already trying to strategically position the backups. They done filled out the roles of the starters in the East, in the NFC. Now they working on the backups. Then down here in the American Conference, I got triplets happening. Really, Shedeur, Huntley, and Deshaun are triplets. I just didn't count Huntley in there. I just put Deshaun because he can't play. He could have been a starter. But that's why they had Shedeur pigeonholed to Cleveland, because he was going to be a pairing. Now he's a triplet. You don't really think there's somewhere where these three black quarterbacks could be spread out and go like they did Minnesota? Of course there is. But they don't want that. This is what I mean by this is 17-32. This is the racism. They just trying to hold back black quarterbacks because white quarterbacks are a minority. Now, remember what happened in the Depression after 1932. They banned all black quarterbacks from the league. All black players, too. Anybody, I don't care what you did. Special teams, kicker, quarterback. They banned all black players from the NFL in 1932, which followed the Depression, because they said black people, it didn't look good for black people to be making money while white people don't have jobs. These are people they don't even know. So this is why I say these black players not only better save their money, they better go start their own league, because they're going to get locked out. Look at how they treating them. And Shedeur is good. Anthony Richardson, his story is interesting to me because he only played one full season in college, and his accuracy or his completion rating was 58%. So I don't know why they're complaining now, because that's what he was in college. So I don't know how he got drafted as high as he did, with no disrespect. He only played 12 games in one season. The other one was 4 games, then it was 8, then it was 12. They drafted him in the first round, number 4 overall, off the strength of one season where his accuracy was documented 58%, and now they pissed off about it. Yeah, okay. There's no justification for what they're doing. It says on the NFL website, give him a year or two, he'll be good. They're not developing these players. You know, people talking about Shiloh tackling. Okay, well, then tell him how to tackle then if you want him to tackle a certain way. Hell, they told Ashton Genty they didn't want him to stand on the field with his knees bent. So they helped to develop him. So tell him how to tackle. Shit. It's not difficult. If they came to you perfect, they would have been in the first round, right? That's why I say he got a target on his back too. Hell, it wouldn't surprise me if they cut them both on the same day, just to keep the lie going. Just to keep the lie going. Hey, Marlon, how you doing? Keep up the great content. Thank you so much, Marlon. I appreciate it. So, you know, that's what it is, guys. This is their orchestrated, strategic musical chairs to prevent black starting quarterbacks from reaching 17-32. They will go to pairings. Now they're moving on to triplets. At some point, they just might get to a point where they just don't draft them or just ban them. I don't really know. But the point is, this is what it is. This is not competition for talent. This is collusion, restricting a person's movement. And that's what they're doing with Shedeur, restricting his movement, even though he's the best. That's called collusion, and it is illegal in the United States. So I think that's all of my presentation for tonight. I wanted to, finally share the updated chart as we get closer and closer to the season. I follow Shedeur. I don't follow the Browns. I'm going to find out about Shedeur on his page or from Daniel Oyefuse. Not following the Browns, not doing it. We'll watch what's going on with the Saints to see what happens with Spencer Rattler. But when looking at this chart, you ought to be able to predict they don't want him to get to 16-32. Him nor Shedeur, right? They not already jacked Anthony for his job. So it's up to Shedeur and Spencer Rattler, whether it happens now or in the season. Stay tuned to that. So this weekend, we'll be watching Shiloh primarily, along with some of the other buffs, maybe LaJonte's game. I'll have to put the schedule together, and we'll talk about the upcoming games for everybody else. It seemed like Shedeur might be hurt. So I don't know. If he's playing, I'll watch. But if he's injured, I'm not wasting my time. We have too many other players to watch. And the Buffs are about 10 days away from playing Georgia Tech. So I'll probably try to squeeze some of the content in there about them. We'll be live for those games as well. All right. Thank y'all for the support. Cameron, thank you so much for getting memberships for others. Hopefully they got them. Know what to do when they get it. That was very sweet. Thank you so much. And Marlon, thank you for the support. I appreciate it and the encouragement. Thank you so much. We're going to get out of here, guys, and I'll be back tomorrow. I'll see y'all midday per usual. Just turn on your notifications because I'm just going to pop up midday. Otherwise, we'll be back at 10:35 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for more What She Said Sports. Thank you, everybody. Y'all have a good night. I hope y'all enjoyed the presentation. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching What She Said Sports. Be sure to join our daily live stream and listen up to What She Said Sports on the go on Spotify. Thank you for watching What She Said Sports. Stay for another video.